WNTN, home of Grecian Echoes, the longest-running Greek-American program in the country.
Good morning once again to our listening audience. It's 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time here in Boston. I'm your host, Teddy Dimitriadis. I'm alongside Kostas Perdikakis and Mike Janity. And we have joining us on the telephone, Stamati Sastra and Manny Frangiadakis of 12 Points Wealth Management for our weekly market update. Gentlemen, good morning from our studios.
Good morning, Kalimera.
Kalimera Manoli. Kalimera Stamati.
So, Manny, stocks are very little changed today. I guess everybody either is taking a breather, is relaxing, is spending the money they made this year. But at least it looks like everybody took the day off today.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're still hitting all-time highs. There was 4 that, crossed last week, even though you had a divergence in breadth, which is rare to see at this point in time. So what that means is you have less stocks participating, more decliners than advancers, but yet the indexes continue to move forward, which is a sign that, people continue to hold on to those, 7 to 8 names that we've historically talked about from a valuation standpoint.
And that's the market, right? Those big names and
65% of the return from those names.
65% of the return. And do we have another meeting of the Federal Reserve? Is it this week?
No. Well, this week you're going to get CPI tomorrow, so you'll get another read on where inflation stands, and the Fed will meet next week on December 18th. That's when we'll get the release.
So you feel that we'll have a reduction in the rate, or?
Costa, I don't think, whether they should or they shouldn't, I believe they shouldn't. Whether they do deliver it, I believe that they do. Just from the standpoint of where the bond market is pricing in right now, I think they're going to deliver you 25 basis points in terms of a reduction next week, and they'll probably message that they will hold in January and wait to see what the incoming administration looks to put forward and press pause on monetary policy decisions until they have more clarity.
Mm-hmm. Plus, the spending that will take place during the holiday season. That's another indication of how the economy is doing, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. But also, the latest readings that you've been, again, this is sentiment readings, but following the election, you've had robust sentiment readings from small businesses in terms of hiring plans and capital investment and more optimism around the economy. So that's picking up as well. You still have stocks at all-time highs. I'm not necessarily sure this is the point in time to be delivering a rate cut. It doesn't seem that financial conditions are too tight at this point in time. But they've boxed themselves between a rock and a hard place, and they're going to have to deliver it to stay safe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Manny, what I'm curious is with the new administration coming in, and, there was some rumbling if the other administration going to capital gains on property. Anything on the tax scene that is affecting, your industry in regards to, selling any benefits that it was Trump that won as opposed to Biden, and had it been, if it is, how long does the tax rules change? How long does it take to get something changed?
Yeah, so if anything, you're expecting this administration to be more pro-business as opposed to a Harris and Walsh administration. Mm-hmm. The idea of taxes rising has kind of gone off the table. In fact, people are potentially looking at tax cuts, lower regulation, more pro-business friendly type of conditions. And that's what's played out in the market. That's why you had
that's why we're seeing what's going on, right?
Rally over since the election. Yeah. So that's getting priced in. But in terms of taxes increasing, I wouldn't expect it under this administration.
Mm-hmm.
What about tax cuts on capital gains? No?
I don't think you're going to get any tax cuts either because you still have a massive deficit problem.
Yeah.
That debt bomb is still ticking out on the sideline.
We haven't talked about that in a long time. Are we chipping away at that, or no? We're going in the opposite direction still. No,
we're going in the opposite direction. But the stories of bond vigilantes of when it's mattered in the past in different market cycles. I mean, the debt problem will matter at some point. The question is, when does that occur? It hasn't seemed to matter for a long time as it relates to the stock market. But yeah, I would not expect tax. I wouldn't expect like massive tax cuts, and I wouldn't expect any changes on capital gains. They'll remain at 20% for long-term capital gains and 40% for short-term, and the definition is just 1 year. That's what separates the two.
So what is the forecast of the market after January 21st?
I think that's the biggest question right now. Could the economic expansion continue? It could. Could the rug get pulled in beginning of 2025? I think one of the things that we're looking forward to seeing is who decides to start selling in 2025. I think most people are holding on to these positions in 2024 to avoid a tax bill next year. So it would be interesting to see what happens in January if you start to see people taking gains off the table, given just the historic rise of indexes and being at all-time highs.
Yeah, don't forget that S&P. There's a big story yesterday in most major financial news. S&P 500, 2 years in a row, close to 20% returns. How likely is that to happen for a third year? Historically, looking at all that, it's not very likely.
It's not very likely, but we've said that in the past, and I think it's not even just the last 2 years, Samantha. If you strip out COVID and look at the last 5 years, gains have been pretty robust and well above the average that the stock market tends to deliver on an annual basis. So, the idea, I think people need to have larger imaginations right now. It feels great right now because a lot of people have had great returns over the last 2 years. They've made plenty of money, and they're hopeful that will continue. But I would say expand your imagination because I think, the odds of having markets be flat for a couple years or have a couple down years in markets is not zero. It's probably more likely today than it has been in the years in the past.
Yeah, and then you still have all the dividends, all the dividend stocks that they give you, that compound rate of return as well.
Correct. And you also, since you mentioned dividends, the dividend yield for the S&P 500 is paper thin, and that is a sign that the market's pretty risky right now. Because you're getting paid, you're actually paying the market to own equities, which historically you do get a yield from the S&P as well.
Manny, I saw. I was reading a little bit about NVIDIA yesterday. They went down because of the Chinese looking into them. Is that right?
Chinese antitrust laws. Yep.
And you know what I didn't realize? I didn't realize they didn't make their own product. That it's all made in Taiwan. So I'm saying
the interesting thing, I think, Mike, to look at that, it's probably just mostly saber rattling because the Chinese Communist Party also approved that deal 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
So the fact that they're backtracking that at this point, I think it's just getting ready for some jawboning between the U.S. and China as it relates to tariffs.
Gotcha. Not that I own any of their stock, but I just was interested in reading about it.
Yep.
Well, what about the strength of the dollar?
I think the dollar's going to decline. Now, in short term, you could see some spikes in the dollar just due to geopolitical risks and seeing a flight to quality. I mean, you have the dollar strengthening today, but you also have gold up substantially due to what's going on in Syria and other parts of the world. But under the previous Trump
administration, enlighten us why the dollar will be affected because of the war in Syria or the uncertainty in Syria.
It's a flight to quality. International investors tend to buy the U.S. dollar and buy U.S. treasuries during periods of uncertainty and heightened geopolitical tensions.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
But under the previous Trump administration, the dollar declined over 10% over that 4-year window. The dollar's been on a heck of a run. It's very strong right now. I actually think that, J.D. Vance campaigned on the fact that he wanted a weaker dollar. And I think that Trump, and as it relates to tariffs, will deliver a weaker dollar. So our anticipation is that the dollar declines over the next 4 years under this administration.
That will give the buyers from overseas, to buy products. I mean,
correct. Yep, you're incentivizing it.
Yeah, I see. Okay,
very good. Anything else resonating, Manny?
I think, usually see some periods of market weakness, usually between, call it December 10th and December 15th. You do see some pullback there historically, but then you usually, see the markets advance about, on average, 1.5% from that period to the end of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect...
Don't forget the end of the year, all the money managers get their bonuses.
Correct. Correct.
So there's a
That's
very
a good
big
point,
conflict
yeah.
of interest to start selling
Correct.
stuff, and drive the market down.
Correct. Yeah, but obviously there's nothing that's really been able to derail this market at this point in time, whether it's geopolitical tension. So I think that you have limited volatility between now and the end of the year, and you start to see what the market is looking like in January, and probably get a better read as we get closer to Inauguration Day.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any
Okay.
any football worth discussing at all? Any even worth a breath?
New England had the week off.
Week off. Bye.
What about Bill Belichick going to
Yeah.
North
There you
Carolina?
He confirmed that he's been in
College.
He
Imagine
has
that.
been recruited. Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing.
I guess Kraft wouldn't let him get a job for another NFL team.
I would think, and I'll let Manny give us his opinion, but I would think if you were a student athlete and you were thinking of going to play football in North Carolina and Bill Belichick would be your head coach, I think you'd be a little bit excited. I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would say so. He's also setting his son up for a permanent position because part of the negotiation with UNC was that he would be head coach in waiting under Belichick's term.
Yeah, kind of like an apprentice.
But the dark horse here, guys, is don't rule out the New York Giants.
No, not at all.
No.
Yeah.
I still
There's
think
rumors out there that supposedly, Aaron Rodgers is going to be leaving the Jets, but that he could find a home very quickly with the other New York team, and that, supposedly, and these are rumors now, that Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers have been trying to convince Bill Belichick to go over to the Giants with them, because if you look at that defense and you look at some of their offensive rookies and talents, whether it be their running back or Malik Neighbors,
right.
you put a defensive-minded coach in front of a very strong front seven, you add some key talent to wide receiver, that team, in theory, could be very competitive next year, and who knows?
Who knows? Yeah, go for the glory one last time.
Yeah.
That's it. Put it together short term.
Can you imagine when he's going to visit first time Foxborough? I'd like to get a ticket.
Anyway,
I don't know if people will boo him or
No,
I don't know.
I think they cheer him.
They will?
Yeah.
No, I think they would cheer him.
I think they would.
Yeah, don't forget he was lucky because he had like Tom Brady for 20 years. If apparently after Tom Brady left, it was proven that he wasn't too successful with the other quarterbacks. So,
Well, name me a coach that hasn't been successful with a lousy quarterback.
Yeah,
It's been a long time,
long,
especially in the passing era now. Back in the day, they could do it, but nowadays, if you don't have the quarterback, you get no shot.
got no shot. Anyway, gentlemen.
I agree.
Yeah. Manny Stamati, thank you very, very much. Tuesdays, 11 o'clock, Manny Frangiadakis, 12 Points Wealth Management. And Manny is always available to talk. 617-212-8343. 617-212-8343. Once again, every Tuesday at 11 a.m. sharp, Eastern Time, 12 Points Management, Manny Frangiadakis with a rundown of our market. Thank you, gentlemen. Nasta gala. Bye-bye.